I never thought I'd be here, writing this. I always saw myself as the guy who had his life figured out. I worked hard, built my success from nothing, and finally had the kind of life I used to dream about when I was a kid. A great career, a home I was proud of, a wife I loved. Then, in the span of a few months, it all went to hell. And the worst part? The people who tore my life apart had the audacity to act like I was the one ruining everything. I guess I should start from the beginning. I grew up in Chicago, the firstborn son in a family that made it painfully clear that I was just the practice run for their real kid, my younger brother, Logan. It wasn't just typical sibling favoritism. This was something else. I remember one summer when I was about 12. I had spent weeks saving up my allowance to buy this model rocket kit I saw at a science store. I put it together piece by piece, carefully following every step, making sure everything was perfect. I was so damn proud of it. The day I was supposed to launch it, Logan threw one of his famous tantrums because he wanted to go to the arcade. My parents told me we could do the rocket another day. That day never came. The rocket sat in the garage for months before disappearing completely. Meanwhile, Logan could break something, on purpose, and my parents would just shake their heads and say, "It's okay, buddy. We'll get you another one." This pattern continued my whole life. Logan would screw up, and my parents would swoop in to clean up his mess, always with some excuse. "He's just a kid. He's going through a tough time." He didn't mean it. I, on the other hand, wasn't given the same grace. I was the responsible one, the one who had to be perfect. When Logan turned 16, my parents bought him a brand new Honda Civic to boost his confidence. 3 months later, he totaled it. They bought him another one. When I turned 16, I got a lesson in responsibility. 3 part-time jobs, a used car I had to buy myself, and a pat on the back. So I did what any kid in my position would do. I worked my ass off and got out. College was the first time I felt like I could breathe. Away from my parents, away from Logan's endless screw-ups, away from the constant feeling that no matter how much I did, it would never be enough. That's where I met Emma. She wasn't like anyone I had ever known. She was smart, funny, and had this way of making me feel like I actually mattered, like I wasn't just Logan's less interesting brother. I still remember the first time I realized I loved her. We were sitting in this tiny coffee shop off campus, the kind with mismatched chairs and terrible lighting, talking about nothing and everything. And she looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You know, you don't always have to have it together. It's okay to just be." No one had ever told me that before. 2 years later, I proposed. We built a life together. A good one. We traveled. We made plans. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. She was my partner in every sense of the word. Then I got the job offer. A huge promotion, leading a new office back in Chicago. I wasn't thrilled about going back, but Emma was excited. "It'll be an adventure," she said. She thought maybe time had changed things. Maybe my family had changed. Spoiler, they hadn't. From the moment we landed, my mom texted me, not to welcome us back, but to tell me Logan had moved back too. Apparently, his business ventures in California hadn't worked out. By business ventures, I mean he scammed some girl's rich parents into funding a tech startup that never existed, then spent the money on cars and bottle service until they threatened legal action. At first, it was just texts. "Hey big bro, heard you're back. We should catch up." Then emails. Then he started showing up. Emma thought I was being too hard on him. "He seems like he's trying," she'd say. "People can change." I knew better. Then, one night, I came home and found him sitting in my living room. I stopped in the doorway, my pulse pounding. "What the hell is this?" Emma looked up from the couch, smiling like this was normal. "I invited him for dinner," she said. "I thought if you two actually talked." I didn't hear the rest. My ears were ringing. Logan grinned, leaning back like he belonged there. "Come on, man. Let's put the past behind us." I wanted to throw him out, right then and there. But Emma's eyes were pleading. So I sat. I ate. I let him put on his damn show. And God, he was good. Asked all the right questions. Pretended to care. Even worked up some fake tears about how much he regretted our distance. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. And I almost believed it. Almost. But something felt off. Then I had to go to New York for a week. company training, onboarding new hires. Emma assured me she'd be fine, and Logan, ever the opportunist, offered to help her settle in. I didn't like it, but I didn't want to be that guy. Controlling, paranoid. So I let it go. I shouldn't have. While I was gone, Logan was everywhere. Taking Emma out to restaurants, showing her around the city, inserting himself into every part of our lives. My parents were right there with them, treating it like some wholesome family reunion. Then the messages from Emma started slowing down. The goodnight texts got shorter. The "I miss you" calls stopped. Something was wrong. I didn't know how bad it was until I got home. The first red flag? The front door was unlocked. I was sure I locked it before I left. The second? The security camera feed wasn't working. Error with storage settings. The third? Logan's shoes were by the door. Like he lived there. I checked the cameras anyway, cloud backup, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Logan. In my house. Every day. Sitting too close to Emma on the couch. Cooking with her in my kitchen. And then I saw it. Him, touching her face. Her, letting him. Smiling. I sat there, watching a week's worth of footage, my hands shaking. And when I finally turned it off, I knew. This wasn't just Logan pushing boundaries. He bulldozed straight through them. Straight into my life. Straight into my marriage. And Emma? She let him. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dark, the glow of my laptop screen burning into my eyes, watching the footage over and over like maybe, just maybe, I had gotten it wrong. Maybe there was some other explanation. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But it was. It was exactly what it looked like. I saw Logan showing up at my house first thing in the morning, Emma greeting him like he belonged there. I saw them cooking together, watching movies, laughing. I saw the way she let him touch her, small things at first. A hand on her lower back, brushing a stray hair from her face. Her not pulling away. Then, the moment that made me sick. Logan standing behind her in the kitchen, his hands on her waist. Emma leaning into him. Her smiling. Like it was normal. Like this was their life. I closed my laptop so hard the screen almost cracked. My hands were shaking. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like the walls were closing in on me. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was my worst fucking nightmare coming to life. Logan had spent our entire lives taking from me. My parents' love. Their attention. Everything I had worked for. He had somehow found a way to weasel his way into it. And now? Now, he had taken my wife. By the time Emma woke up the next morning, I had already decided how this was going to go. No screaming. No throwing things. No begging for answers. I was going to be smart about this. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I had no intention of drinking. Emma shuffled in, still in her pajamas, her hair a mess. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "Hey," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "You're up early." I watched her for a long moment, trying to figure out how the hell she could just stand there and pretend. "Yeah," I said finally. "Didn't sleep well." She frowned, stepping closer. "You okay?" No, I wasn't okay. I was sitting across from a woman I no longer recognized, pretending like I hadn't spent the entire night watching her betray me. But I just forced a small smile. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." She leaned down, pressing a kiss to my temple. I almost recoiled. "I'll make us some breakfast," she said, moving toward the fridge. I let her. Let her go through the motions of being a good wife. Let her crack eggs into a pan and hum softly like she wasn't cheating on me with my own brother. I needed time to think. To plan. I called my lawyer that afternoon. "Cheating?" he asked, his voice calm, almost bored. Like this was just another Tuesday for him. "And financial fraud," I said. That got his attention. I laid everything out. The footage. The missing money I had noticed from our joint account. Logan's pattern of scams. The way he had latched onto Emma like a parasite. My lawyer was quiet for a long time. Then, he let out a slow, impressed whistle. "You've got a hell of a case, my friend." "Damn right I do." We spent the next hour going over the details. How I could move assets before Emma tried anything. How I could file for divorce in a way that would leave her and Logan legally fucked. "And the paternity test?" he asked. My stomach twisted. I exhaled sharply. "Yeah, that too." Because, of course, Emma had dropped the "I'm pregnant" bombshell just days before I found out about the affair. And now? Now, I didn't even know if the kid was mine. That night, Logan texted me. Logan, yo, we should talk. I stared at my phone, my jaw tightening. Me? About what? Logan, just want to clear the air, man. I feel like we've had tension lately. Tension. I almost threw my phone at the wall. Instead, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Me? Sure. Come by tomorrow. Let him think I was clueless. Let him walk right into it. He had no idea what was coming. Logan showed up the next evening, just like I knew he would. He strolled into my house, like he belonged there, like he hadn't been sneaking around with my wife behind my back. He had that same smug grin he always wore when he thought he was getting away with something. Yo, big bro, he said, spreading his arms like we were about to hug. Good to see you, man. I didn't move, didn't smile, just watched him. His grin faltered slightly, but he recovered quick. Damn, tough crowd, he chuckled, stepping inside. He glanced around like he was scoping the place out. Emma around? That almost made me snap right there. My fingers curled into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm. Stay in control. She's out, I said flatly. Cool, cool, he said, nodding like this was just another casual visit. He flopped onto my couch, stretching out like he owned the place. Listen, I know things have been kind of weird between us, and I just want to clear the air. I feel like we got off on the wrong foot since I moved back. He was good. Too good. If I didn't already know what he had done, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I might have believed him. I sat down across from him, studying every twitch of his fingers, every shift in his expression. The wrong foot, huh? Yeah, man, he said, rubbing the back of his neck like he was playing at being nervous. I mean, I get it. I haven't been the best brother. I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to be better. And I want us to be cool again. I almost laughed. The audacity of this guy. Better? I echoed. That why you've been hanging around my wife? For the first time, he hesitated. It was quick, just a flicker of something behind his eyes, but I caught it. Emma? He let out an awkward chuckle. Come on, man, you're not jealous, are you? I didn't say anything, just stared at him. His smile started to slip. Look, I was just helping her out while you were busy, he said, his voice too casual. She was lonely, man. She needed someone to talk to. I figured, I'd be a good brother and cut the shit. My voice was calm. Too calm. Logan blinked. What? I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. I know, I said quietly. He tried to play dumb. Know what? You. Emma. My house. My bed. His face went pale. For a split second, I saw it. The realization that he had been caught. But then, just as fast, he recovered. That same fake, easygoing smile slid back into place. Whoa, bro, he said, raising his hands. I think you got the wrong idea here. I didn't even blink. I have video, Logan. Silence. He swallowed hard, his knees starting to bounce. His fingers twitched like he wanted to grab his phone and run. Okay, he finally said, his voice quieter now. Okay, so what happens now? I let the silence stretch. Let him sweat. Then, I leaned back again. You're gonna pack your shit and get the hell out of my life? Logan let out a breathy, nervous laugh. Come on, man. We're family. You stopped being my family the second you stepped into my marriage, I said coldly. He flinched. I swear, man, it just happened, he started. But I cut him off. You don't just accidentally fuck your brother's wife. He shut up real quick after that. I stood up, towering over him. Here's what's gonna happen, I said, my voice low and steady. You're gonna disappear. You're gonna pack your shit, leave town, and never come near me again. Logan clenched his jaw, looking away. And if I don't? I smiled. Then I make sure everyone, knows exactly what kind of man you are. His head snapped up. I have proof, Logan, I said. Videos. Bank records. Texts. I know you've been stealing from Emma too. I know about the accounts. The transfers. And if you think I won't bury you with all of it, you don't know me at all. Panic flickered across his face. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other, the air thick with tension. Then, slowly, Logan slumped back into the couch, rubbing his hands over his face. Fuck, he muttered. I didn't respond. After a long pause, he let out a slow breath and stood. Fine, he muttered. I'll go. I didn't move. Didn't say a word. He hesitated by the door, glancing back. For what it's worth, I didn't mean to hurt you, man. I tilted my head. You did it anyway. His mouth pressed into a tight line. Then he walked out. I waited until I heard his car pull away before I let myself breathe again. One down. One more to go. Emma came home late that night. I was sitting in the kitchen, lights dimmed, a half-empty glass of whiskey in front of me. I heard the front door open, the rustle of her coat as she shrugged it off, the soft click of her heels on the hardwood floor. Hey, she called out, her voice light casual, like everything was normal, like she hadn't spent the last few weeks sneaking around with my brother behind my back. I didn't answer. She stepped into the kitchen, pausing when she saw me sitting there. You okay? She asked, frowning slightly. You look tired. I tilted my head, studying her. She looked the same. Same soft features, same bright eyes that used to make me weak in the knees. And yet, she felt like a stranger. I took a slow sip of my drink before setting it down. Where were you? She blinked. What? Where were you? I repeated, my voice calm. Too calm. She let out a small laugh, tucking her hair behind her ear. I had dinner with Sophie. I told you that this morning, remember? I nodded. Right. Sophie. She hesitated, shifting her weight. Why are you asking? I leaned back in my chair, stretching out my legs. No reason, I said. Just wanted to see if you'd lie to my face again. Her expression froze. The air between us went deadly still. She let out a breathy laugh, forced and nervous. What are you talking about? I stood up, slow and deliberate, watching her every move. You want to try that again? Her eyes darted to the side, her throat bobbing as she swallowed. You're acting weird. I let out a quiet chuckle. Yeah. I stepped closer, watching her squirm. Maybe that's because I know. She stilled. I could see the exact moment it hit her. The way her breath caught. The way her fingers twitched at her sides. I know, Emma, I said, voice sharp. I know everything. Silence. Then, I don't. I laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. Don't, I said, cutting her off. Don't insult me. Don't lie to me. Not anymore. She pressed her lips together, eyes shining. It's not what you think. I let out a slow breath. I have video. Her mouth opened, closed. A strangled noise escaped her throat. I tilted my head. What was that? You were saying? Tears welled in her eyes. I can explain. I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. You always can, can't you? I muttered. Then I looked at her, really looked at her. Tell me, Emma, when did it start? She sniffed, shaking her head. I don't know. That's not an answer. Her lower lip trembled. It just happened. I clenched my jaw. You don't just accidentally fuck my brother. She winced, a tear slipping down her cheek. And for a split second, just a split second, I almost felt bad. But then I remembered the footage. The way she smiled at him. The way she let him touch her. The way she betrayed me so easily. And the pity evaporated. I took a step back, exhaling through my nose. You know what? Doesn't matter. She sniffled, looking up at me. What do you mean? I grabbed my whiskey, took another slow sip. I already talked to a lawyer. Her breath hitched. I nodded. Yeah, it's happening. I filed this morning. A choked sound escaped her throat. No, she whispered, shaking her head. No, we can fix this. I barked out a laugh. Fix this? I repeated, incredulous. Emma, there's no fixing this. You destroyed everything. She took a step toward me, reaching out. Please, she begged. It was a mistake. I love you. I jerked away before she could touch me. No, you don't, I said coldly. You love what I gave you. You love the life I built for us. But me? I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. You threw me away for him. Her face crumpled. I wasn't thinking. No, I said. You were. You just didn't think you'd get caught. Silence stretched between us. She was shaking now, hugging herself like it would hold her together. What about the baby? My stomach twisted. I clenched my jaw. We'll find out if it's mine. She let out a sob, her whole body trembling. I turned away. Pack a bag, I said. You're leaving tonight. She gasped. No. I'm done, Emma. My voice was steel. Get out. And for the first time in our entire relationship, she listened. Emma was gone by the time I woke up the next morning. The house was quiet. Too quiet. For a moment, I just lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything settle over me. The past few days had been a fucking hurricane. Discovering the affair, confronting Logan, watching Emma break down when she realized she couldn't talk her way out of this. And now, for the first time in weeks, I was alone. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt victorious. I had done everything right. I got my proof, made my move, and cut them both out of my life like the cancer they were. But instead, I just felt empty. I forced myself out of bed, showered, got dressed, made coffee, but barely touched it. My phone buzzed a few times. Texts from friends, work emails, one missed call from an unknown number. Then, one from my lawyer. Paternity test results are in. Call me when you're ready. I stared at the message, my pulse pounding in my ears. I wasn't ready, but I called anyway. Hey, he said, picking up on the first ring. You sitting down? My stomach twisted. Just tell me. A pause. Then, the baby is yours. I let out a slow breath, gripping the edge of the counter. My knuckles went white. I don't know what I was hoping for. Part of me had wanted it to be Logan's, just so I could walk away clean. But another part, the part that still remembered Emma before all of this, the part that had once wanted a family with her, had been clinging to the tiniest sliver of hope. All right, I said, my voice flat. Thanks. Listen, my lawyer said carefully, this changes things. If you want full custody, we need to move fast. Emma's still reeling. She won't be thinking clearly. This is the time to act. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I know. Are you sure you want to do this? I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Because no matter how fucked up this situation was, that kid was mine. And I wasn't going to let Emma or my family screw him up the way they screwed up everything else. The custody battle wasn't easy. Emma fought. Of course she did. She played every card she had, sobbed in court, painted me as a cold and distant workaholic, swore she had made a terrible mistake, but that she was still a good mother. She brought my parents into it, too. They showed up, all fake concern and forced sympathy, trying to guilt the judge into seeing me as the problem. He's always been like this, my mom said on the stand, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue. He pushes people away. He's emotionally distant. He doesn't know how to love properly. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. My dad shook his head, sighing like this was all some big disappointment. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's successful. But family? That's never been his strong suit. Logan didn't show up, probably because he was too busy dealing with his own legal issues. Turns out, when you scam enough people, it eventually catches up with you. He tried running off to Florida, but one of the guys he conned turned out to have ties to some very serious people, and suddenly, Logan wasn't so untouchable anymore. Last I heard, he was bouncing between court dates, drowning in lawsuits, and completely broke. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. As for my parents, their attempts to ruin my case completely backfired. My lawyer ripped them apart on the stand, exposing every lie, every manipulation, every instance of them covering for Logan's bullshit. By the time the trial was over, the judge saw right through them. I got full custody. Emma got supervised visitation. And just like that, it was over. The day my son was born, I wasn't in the delivery room. Emma didn't want me there. But 2 days later, I held him for the first time. He was so small, so fragile. His tiny fingers curled around mine, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger, other than exhaustion. I felt hope. He was mine, and no matter what happened, No matter how fucked up the situation was, he was innocent in all of this. I wasn't going to let him grow up the way I did. I wasn't going to let him feel like he had to earn love. He was going to know every single day that he was wanted, that he was enough, that he had a father who would never walk away. Emma tried, over the next few months, to fix things. She apologized, over and over, said she wanted to co-parent peacefully, said she had been lost and made a terrible mistake. I listened, but I never let her back in. And my parents? They tried too. They reached out after the ruling, acting like nothing had happened, pretending they had never stood in that courtroom and torn me apart in front of a judge. I ignored every single call, because the truth is, I did lose my family, but I also found something better. I found peace, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back.